Yes, it is coming.
Is it streaming?
It will. It has started streaming from here. Okay. Um, uh, we need to just play the video. Let's see what is. Okay. Play the video. If I go to all the platforms,
Hi, this is your speed reading coach, Jim Quick, and I have a question for you. Is your life spinning out of control?
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Today, we have come forward for a purpose, the purpose of talking about sustainability. I would request the speakers to please switch on their camera. And everyone, please switch on your camera so that we can see who all is available here with us. We want to make this interaction very much interactive so that we are here to talk about sustainability. We are not just going to tell you about what is right, what is wrong. I know that you already know about it. You already know that there is a huge climate change happening right now. And right now, every day, our Earth is getting hotter. It is getting 1.1 degrees Celsius warmer due to greenhouse emission. So we are just going to talk about a few of the ways by which we can reach a net carbon zero emission world. So I, along with my team, welcome you to this webinar of elevating sustainability, unlocking the power of plantation for net zero carbon emissions. As you all know, our world is pushing the planet thermostat beyond safe level of 350 ppm CO2. And nearly 10 million hectares of forest disappear in the world every year. And this report is according to United Nations of Food and Agriculture Organization. Now, when so much deforestation is happening, obviously the climate will change. And as you already saw on this IPCC climate change report, the world needs better solution for sustainable. For sustaining in the future, we want better solution. Looking at this urgency of how the climate is changing and how our climate is getting, our world is getting warmer, our government has taken initiative. The government of India has taken Green India Mission, which aims at sequestering 2.5 billion tons of carbon by 2030 and increase the forest cover by 30 million hectares. This is not a small mission. This is a huge mission. And the ambitious goal requires a collective efforts from individual, corporates, businesses, and the government. So I urge each one of you to take a step ahead towards sustainable future. Taking this in mind, DGTL has taken a step ahead. We are 7 years old company, and we are here for digital transformation. We have helped 50 plus global enterprise and mid-sized customers in their journey to get digital. Now, DGTL has come up with a plantation management software. This is one step towards the sustainable future. We are helping Government of India in this Green India mission by calculating how much plantation has been done, how much carbon has been sequestered. I am with you. I am Neha Kapoor, and I am a co-founder and chief marketing officer at DGTL. I've got 14 plus years of experience in IT industry facing client services. And with me, we have Kushwan Sadalia, sir, who has 35 plus years of experience in supply chain and digital transformation. He has worked on digital project for Reliance, Balco, JK Tires, and ONGC. With 28 plus years of experience in Hindustan Zinc as head commercial and AGM, he was involved in Adani Group digital supply chain transformation. He advocates a digital strategy for improved sustainability reporting, and he promotes an idea of exchanges for sustainability goals. Along with him, we have Dr. Satyanarayan, sir, who has 30 plus years of experience in climate change and natural resource management. He had senior roles with MOEF and CC, WWF India, National Water Mission, and others. He has done a PhD in ecology, trained at Howard Maxwell School and UNITA. Awarded a citation by Dr. Manmohan Singh, former PM, recognizing his contribution to the World of Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change, which is the winner of Nobel Peace Prize. Expert from Green Climate Fund, provided us advisory services to UNDP, GF, and UNEP. He's a retired Principal Chief Conservator Officer of Forest, Orissa, and right now he's serving as the President of Veda Climate Change Solution. Now I invite all my panelists to be active with us. And now I open the floor for my speakers to come up and talk with me. And I want to shoot this question to Dr. Sadalia, sir, that how digital tool can support plantation initiatives. Sadalia, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Neha. Good afternoon to all the participants. Over the past couple of years, organizations have been taking the plantation as an important tool and drive within their organization goals to help conserve the earth as well as to do their bit for the increasing the green covers. Okay. But the issue has been that the efforts on the ground uh, need to be sustained by a proper planning and monitoring tool. So far, the organizations have tried to make do somehow to use the existing ERP software or the Excel or databases to try and capture the status of the plantation and monitor. But these are not designed for plantation management. Okay. So there is a need in the real world to have a tool supports your requirement to start from the planning of the plantation, the monitoring of the growth of the trees, as well as very importantly, a fine-tuned and accurate MIS and data sets which can support organizations' goals in terms of internal reporting as well as external reporting for the sustainability reports, as well as in case they want to go in for a CER project, the data again needs to be there. So there is an established need for a good digital tool which will help organizations do that. Now, if you have a brief look at what type of organizations actually do the plantations. So you see, if you leave aside the individuals who are doing the plantations, the first type of people who come into doing the plantation are NGOs. So these NGOs basically are either funded by an agency or being contracted out by a corporate to do plantation on their behalf. So they have a requirement to keep on updating the growth status of the plants which they have planted on somebody's request. Or sometimes the government also hires these NGOs to do the plantation. But usually it is seen that after a couple of years, the data trace gets lost, the survivability is not known, how much carbon got sequestered by these efforts are also not very accurately tracked. The second set of people who are seriously looking into plantations are corporates. Corporates look at the plantation drive as a means of strengthening their connect and maintaining bonds with their various stakeholders. Now, these stakeholders can be internal as well as external. These corporates strive to involve these stakeholders in the process of plantation by various request channels and feedback mechanisms. Now, here again, I strongly believe a digital tool to help them mitigate the connect between the external and internal stakeholders would go a long way in promoting their efforts. On the other hand, large corporates with a long-term horizon towards plantation have only included it as a CSR activity or it is a their corporate goal in the vision and mission. They need regular, updated, clean data and MIS to report the status of the management as well as for external agencies. At some point of time, these corporates and NGOs would also start taking a look at the option of converting their efforts from plantation, measuring them in terms of carbon sequestration, and try to convert them into carbon credits. There is a well laid out path and process to be followed for the CER credits, which my co-speaker Dr. Satyanarayan will speak about later. Now, to look at the above requirement from data and control point of view, we need few elements in place in the software to handle the same. The first and foremost is request for plantation. In case the request is coming from an individual from within the organization or an external stakeholders who wants to get involved, or is it a CSR activities? So there are multiple agencies who could raise a request. It could either be an internal or it could be an external stakeholder. For the external stakeholder, the tool needs to be robust enough to allow a safe access to an external login because he's entering into your system from an external domain. So proper password protections and security measures need to be put in. And if it is an internal stakeholder, then of course, most of the organizations have their internal measures in place. The second aspect is since the number of requests tend to be large, particularly if you are opening up to the internal and external stakeholders, the software should be capable enough to handle the loads and automate most of the tasks required for somebody to access and get reports from the software. So the registration should be automated, the MIS should be automated, the dashboard should be automated, the regular status updates should be automated. So as far as possible, the software should be able to be self-driven. Now, once you have got somebody on the board, making a request for plantation, you have captured his request. Some organizations, of course, say that, okay, you just raise a request and we'll plant it on your behalf. Some organizations say, okay, you accompany your request along with a small nominal amount of money. So that can also be handled through the software. Then comes the role of the agency who's doing the actual plantation. Now, to do the actual plantation, you need a database of the available areas, the locations, the soil conditions of the location, the climatic conditions of the locations, and probable species which can be planted there. So this should be available there in the software as a choice. Some organizations who do the plantation work internally uh, through their horticulture department or a specific set of people meant for this purpose. The others would tend to contract out to an external vendor as an end-to-end contract. So software should be able to handle both ways. If the request is coming internally, it can come as a monthly, quarterly, yearly plan. And if it is going to an external vendor, it can go as a part of a service orders to the external vendor to plant in a number of trees. Once the approval and association of a particular request has been done to the agency going to contract out, then comes the monitoring aspect. The plantation needs to be assigned to the specific agencies and its sowing, health, growth status need to be tracked over a period of time. In case of agencies, the software supports should support a data capture mechanism where the growth, the girth, the weight, the height of the tree uh, can be measured over a period of time. Sometimes photographs can also be taken and assigned along with the tree, and then can be reported back as the part of the MIS. The software, the still software should be able to report the percentage survival, the health condition of the plant, and the carbon sequestered by the plant till date. Large plantation monitoring can also be supported by IoT-based technologies, drone monitoring, and satellite surveys. Most important for our corporates as well as those who are interested in subsequent CR credits is the data reporting and the MIS. These data sets are meant for internal as well as external agencies. If you make the reporting of the plantation efforts as a part of your sustainability report, then the data needs to be verifiable and auditable and has to follow a certain pattern. So these the digital tool should be able to give you those information. And the reports and MIS become an important tool for internal review mechanism of the corporation for their sustainability report as well as CER project monitoring. So these are some of the uh, necessities which are required for marrying a digital tool to your plantation efforts. Okay. So move to the next slide.
Yeah. You want to talk
I'm not speaking from the slide. I'm just speaking extempore. So anybody wants to raise a question, you are most welcome. Okay. Okay.
I will just want Sadale sir to talk about the planning for the plantation, because most of the enterprises do fail at this point, that how do we plan for the plantation? Could you help us with this?
Thank you, Neha. So there are two aspects for planning for a plantation. One is a functional aspect that is left to the environmentalist and the experts on ecology who would do the groundwork in terms of capturing the soil condition, climatic conditions, whether type of species which will be favorable to be planted at location. But from the aspect of a corporate or an NGO or an individual company, they also need to do certain planning. And first of all is very important is site selection. Site selection should match your probable goals which you have. If you plan to say plant maybe 10,000 trees, then the site selection could be somewhere near your plant sites or near your colonies. If you're planning to plant billions of trees, then you need to also arrange for the locations. Maybe certain permissions are required from governmental agencies, and you need to consider whether they are right locations which have favorable factors of soil quality, climate, and vegetation. The second is the selecting suitable species. Now, here The database and the software tool can help a little bit, but this is primarily a functional knowledge, wherein the database can store the probable matching species which would be appropriate for a specific climatic conditions. And the third comes the execution part. So there are a lot of efforts required when you are, say, trying to plant a million trees in a year. It's a huge effort. There could be multiple agencies, multiple group companies involved, multiple areas and locations. So you need to properly coordinate. And also it is time sensitive because there are certain seasons which are more favorable for planning. So these digital tools should be able to help you to coordinate all these activities, to manage the distribution of saplings, and in some cases we are involving volunteers to have a proper guidance and volunteer training. Okay. Then you need to set up your plantation schedule so that you are able to achieve your goals before the targeted times. And usually it is 3 months, sometimes most of the organizations try to target. Although some organizations do it year around, but the best survivability is you do it just before the monsoon. Now comes the long-term effort. Here the digital tools are very, very important. Now, what would an organization want to monitor? Number one, they would want to monitor that how many of my trees planted have survived, because that is a measure of their success. They have put in effort, they have put in money, so the survivability is an important parameter. The other important parameter is the health of the plantation in terms of whether it is growing adequately, whether some disease infestation is happening, whether sufficient or adequate moisture is not being made available to the trees for a proper healthy growth. Okay. And then what are the physical parameters? Now, physical parameters usually at a very basic level can be the height of the tree, the girth of the tree at the chest height, or it could be automated measurements from the drones or satellite image in terms of the coverage of green foliage, which is increasing as an effect of the plantation. Now, these data sets and records need to be consistent in a specific format so that you maintain a digital log of the progress of the plantation for future reference. Now, why it is important is because of probable a very important goal that at some point of time, not only you would want to report them in your sustainability efforts, but also you would want to take the carbon credit project based on your plantation effort. So as soon as these statutory or voluntary reporting mechanisms come into play, then supporting data is very important. So you need to have data in a consistent format and be available as a verifiable data set. Back to me.
So there is a question. I see that you have already answered a bit of it in your introduction only, but I want you to specify clearly and very, giving us the pointers that why plantation management app is the need of the hour.
Okay. So although the very general replies to these questions are there, but very specifically, the first and foremost need is the accuracy of the data for the purpose of external reporting. These reporting can be for the carbon credits, or they could be for some other internal reporting mechanism. And second is, we all know as a people who have been using the digital tools for a number of years, if you have the proper set of data in a timely manner, you can increase the efficiency and reduce your errors in terms of reporting and resource acquisition. The plantation is not a small effort, particularly large operations who are planting millions of trees. It is a substantial part of their EBITDA, which they put into such causes. So they are wanting to make the entire process as efficient as possible. And to make it efficient, the primary goal is to have a proper control, monitoring, and data sets. Second is, you would want to showcase environmental efforts to external agencies. So what happens, suppose you are an organization who is an airport management agency. Okay, so you would want to showcase the people who are working through your airport. what are your efforts towards plantation and how they are fructifying into measurable changes. If you are a corporate, you would want to uh, communicate to your stakeholders who are living nearby to your plant locations, whether what is the change which is coming to their soil conditions, what is the change which is coming to their productivity of the soil, the local temperatures and other physical parameters as an direct or indirect effect of the plantation. Okay, and then some organizations also want to enhance their plantation efforts visibility by trying to attract eco-conscious customers. So if a customer keeps on getting a visual cues wherever he goes in terms of digital media advertisement, physical media advertisement, or other inputs, that this particular company is doing something good in terms of doing plantations, then it builds up a long-term trust, which is very important marketing tool to retain your customers. Now, another important area where digital tools and softwares help you here is to provide stakeholders with real-time updates. Now, traditionally, what we have seen is organizations would be assigned a plantation task and they'll do the plantations. But now the effort is moving towards involving the people living around you, working with you, or consuming your produces and services in terms of your efforts and the effect of your efforts. So informing them with regular real-time updates, progress reports, and asking them to collaborate, okay, in your sustainability initiative is an important area which improves your connect with your customers and external stakeholders. So digital tools can help by sort of providing an automated certificate of say plantation, or could be sending you a digital picture or other information and elements, so which can be shared by you, and that the bonds improves the bonds of the external stakeholder with the organizations. Thank you.
So I want you to just elaborate about digital green. The purpose that we have come together is talking about calculating or reporting the sustainability. And here in digital has come up with digital green product. So I want you to just elaborate upon the what are the steps by step plantation management that digital green one can do through digital green.
Okay, so uh, rest assured, I am not going into a demo of digital green. Very briefly, I talk about the background and the angle in which we thought that this tool would be useful. So it has certain functions. Very briefly, first is the registration of a user. If it is an external user, he can register through the web portal and he is assigned a user number. And usually the user number can be either an automatically generated number or it can be his mobile number. And as soon as he registers, he automatically system communicates to him through SMS or through mail that he has been registered and his request has been received and will be going to be processed. If it is an internal user, in the sense it can be your environment department, it can be your horticulture department, then they get an login created by the admin, which they can access from inside the domain, and then they can put in requests, which can be either a single request or multiple requests. Multiple requests in the sense they can raise a request for 1 quarter or 1 year, say 50,000 trees or 10,000 trees, which can be broken up. The software is designed to track each tree separately. Whether the request is for 1 tree or 10 tree, it will finally generate a unique tree number, which is not reused even if the tree dies. So you know how many of your trees have survived. So the all the tracking of the data set is uniquely linked to a automatically generated tree number. Now, since various organizations may have various ways of working, like certain NGOs may say, okay, you give maybe a nominal deposit of 100 rupees and we'll plant a tree on your behalf. Or some corporates may say, okay, anybody raising a request to plant a tree on a specific occasion, like birthday of their mother and father or some other occasion, it can be received as a free of cost request, and the organization will plant the tree and keep you updated about the actual status. The third aspect comes about the actual plantation. Okay. Now, usually some organizations who are doing internally do not want further approvals or workflows. Once they receive the request, they straight away start on implementing those requests. But some organizations would want to have a workflow and approval mechanism internally when the request is approved, because these requests sometimes can be substantial with huge money and effort layout. So the planning for that is done. The budgeting is provided. So while the request moves through the workflow approval, and then depending on the corporate policies, this is assigned to a specific set of people that can be internal department or it could be third party or it could be farmers. We have seen many organizations who say we will allow farmers to plant trees on their uh, farms, and then we will give them due credit of those things. Okay. So the actual plantation needs to be tracked, and to do that, you first need to assign a specific agency, inform him what type of tree and where it is to be planted, and then the agency needs to update the status of the growth of the sapling over a regular period. It could be monthly, it could be 3 monthly, 6 monthly, depending on the nature of the tree and the area and number of trees. And some organizations want a physical snapshots. Some organizations want geotagging of the trees. Some organizations look at the geotagging of the area where the tree is located, because particularly if it is from an external stakeholders, they want the external stakeholders to come and visit those trees also to see physically and connect and bond with the organization's efforts about the plantation. So these status updates are done by the agency who is doing the plantation. Uh, and it's a very easy process. It can be a bulk upload. It can be a scan of uh, the QR code which is planted on the tree. And then the system is so configured that the data automatically converts into a set of real-time dashboards and reports, which can be used by management for the internal monitoring or for external reporting. So this is how the software works. There are specific process, more or less, they follow the same line. And here you can see a screenshot of one of our installations, which we have done for Hindustan Zinc. Now, Hindustan Zinc is a large corporate who have multiple locations, and they have a well thought of vision in terms of planting huge number of trees. The corporate targets goes into millions and tens of millions. So they were on a lookout of a digital tool which will help them support the effort of plantation, because they found over the years they've been doing the plantation. After some number of years, then the data set keeps on becoming less and less reliable, and they are not able to depend on those data sets for external and CR reporting, because then these reportings are sometimes auditable. So they wanted a tool which will be easy to use, involve their external stakeholders, internal stakeholders with the plantation effort to develop the consciousness and good to feel sensation about the corporates. So this is designed in both ways. The company can raise an internal request as well as external stakeholders can raise a request to the web portal, and the software can be used either on a browser or it can also be used on the mobile phone. And on the right hand side, a small screenshot you see, which is the crux of identifying, that is the tree card, the small tree card, which is affixed either near to the tree when
Um, I have lost the voice of Sadali, sir. Can anybody else take it? Can anybody else hear him?
hello, I think there's small glitch and probably I got disconnected. But going forward, this is a very briefly we're trying to show what admin dashboards are there. You can have a plantation log telling you how many plantations done, where, when. You can keep a track of the plantation request by department, by person, by areas, various factors. You can have species-wise reporting in terms of how many plants of each species planted. And you can also analyze the growth of each of the species and the carbon sequestered by the species. You can have area and location mapping because usually corporates have multiple locations, multiple areas, and within each area, multiple locations, so that it's easy to uh, navigate and identify where a specific tree has been planted. And then, very importantly, the carbon sequestration monitoring reports. Now, here there are certain uh, assumptions or references required, uh, particularly related to your climatic conditions and the species which you plant, which need to be fed into the software. The sources of the information can be your environment department, or you can refer to international and national reports of the United Nations or other such agencies who provides you data in terms of what is the approximate carbon sequestration in terms of each species in a specific climatic zone or soil conditions. Some organizations are very specific. They say, no, nothing doing. Will actually measure the growth. So they tend to capture data in terms of the height of the tree, the canopy coverage of the trees, the thickness of the trunk of the tree. They do estimation of the carbon sequestered above ground. They do estimation of the carbon sequestered below ground, and so many other factors. Ultimately, trying to get a clear picture on what is the end result going to be. And survival report is also part of the dashboard, which tells them, okay, where is the area or location where survivability is less, and we need to optimize those opportunities there. So this is admin dashboard. Similar other dashboards are there to the vendor who is doing the plantation, and a dashboard is also available to the user for the purpose of looking at his request or his department's request. MIS, apart from dashboard, dashboards are a tool which help you easily have a feeling of what is happening where in a single glance at the screen. You can do slice and dice, you can dig into the data, you can create ad hoc reporting through those dashboards. But there are some specific reports which are required in a specific formats by corporates, and they need to be real time or as real time as possible. So those reports are created automatically at a specific periodicity and intimated. And analyzing these reports helps you identify trends. The graph and the trend charts also help you to trend in terms of identifying the trend and optimize your strategies to make informed decisions. And you keep on getting a comprehensive MIS over a long period of time, which helps you into your CER credit proposals. Thank you, Neha.
So I have, when we launched this webinar, we were discussing this with a lot of enterprises, and they had their major concern around how to monitor the plant growth and status. So could you please elaborate on how we can minimize the effort required to monitor the plant status?
Okay, now this is very important because as long as we are talking about a plantation which is a few hundred trees or few thousand trees, it is quite feasible to monitor them manually. But as we escalate and grow the efforts of plantation and start reaching 50,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakh trees or even more, it becomes very important to optimize the entire process because it is not very feasible to count each tree, to measure its girth, to measure its height, to measure the foliage cover individually for those trees or even for the area. So that there are certain tools which collaborate with the digital softwares, help you get to the bottom of these data sets. A very old tool is satellite imagery. Now, as you know, many of these satellite imagery tracks the green cover. Now, over a period of time, these satellite imageries are a larger scale. So it gives you a visualization of how the effort of plantation is making change to the territory in terms of foliage cover and greening of the area by comparing the satellite maps over a period of time. Because satellites are continuously revolving around the earth, and you can choose an area which you want to monitor. You can procure or get the feed from the agencies who are managing the software and try to analyze that. Now, if you are not into that large scale, then if it is maybe spread over 100 hectares or so, maybe few mountain ranges or hills or some places, few square kilometer near a plant, then drone monitoring is an important tool wherein you can use the drone to measure the foliage cover. Now there are LiDAR-based technologies which, with the help of laser emitters, can give you powerful insights in terms of how much height the tree has attained over a period of time. What was the initial ground coverage? What is the current ground coverage? What is the height of the canopy? What is the dimensions of the green coverage? So many other inputs which can help you in terms of collaborating your data as well as deriving your carbon sequestration directly from those drone monitoring reports. Uh, the other two tools are, of course, the ground monitoring, which is already available to you, and you know that an agency can keep on counting. But these are some of the tools which can drastically reduce the effort in terms of monitoring the growth status. Satellite imagery, drone monitoring, and LiDAR-based surveys. Some organizations also tend to use the infrared-based surveys, but irrespective of the type of sensor, the tool which is prominent here is the drone which can be used for this. Back to you, Neha.
So would you like to talk about the status updates, how one can get the status updates here?
Okay, so the obvious question is, what are you updating in the status? Okay, so many organizations would try to maintain different pointers, what they would want to look at based on their goals. Primarily, they would definitely want to have these few four criteria, whether the plant is surviving and growing satisfactorily, or whether it is struggling to grow, whether it is diseased, or it requires certain interventions such as watering, pruning, or pest control. So this is the basic element which each organization would definitely want to track. And many of these tracks can be combined with the LiDAR and drone surveys to give you the inputs on those. Apart from this, certain organizations would want to track the foliage coverage, they want to track the tree height, they want to track the actual carbon sequestered by direct or indirect measurements of the tree height and the tree girth.
So that was really insightful, Sudhale sir. Now I understand that these plantations that we are doing, they are definitely having the potential to generate carbon credits. And this can help to offset, this can help enterprises to offset the carbon footprints. So the corporates, so from the industries, a lot of carbon is being released. In order to offset that carbon footprint, we can do plantation. So now I invite Dr. Satyanarayan sir to help us understand what are the benefits of carbon projects. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Neka, and very good afternoon to all the participants. And Mr. Sabdania has given a very elaborate account of the plantation, digital monitoring, and all that. And I think now I have, I think, very less time so that I will be very brief in talking about the carbon projects. I think most of you or all of you are aware of the carbon credits. Everybody is talking about the carbon credit these days. So what is a carbon credit? Again, the carbon credit in the context of the plantations we are talking about here is that 1 ton of carbon dioxide sequestered. We are all aware that all the plants, they absorb the carbon dioxide and emit oxygen. So the 1 ton of carbon dioxide sequestered by the plant while it is growing is one carbon credit. Now, these carbon credits are generated in various forms, in various activities, but here we are focusing only on the plantations part. So here, when you are raising a plantation, it would matter because when you are trying to develop a carbon project, there are various standards at the moment, like the standard Verra, gold standard, and also there is a compliant market, the CDM. It used to be there earlier, but now it is Article 6.4. So there are many standards under which we can develop a carbon projects. So I think, there are a number of benefits from the carbon projects. It is not just environmental benefit. Environmental benefit is anyway, it is reducing the atmospheric, carbon dioxide and all that. But these kind of projects would also provide social and economic benefits. So that, when you are trying to develop these kind of projects on the degraded lands, on the lands owned by the farmers or the smallholders, or even the communities or the panchayats, so they provide these carbon revenue can be a source of additional income to these people, so that this would enhance their livelihood options. So that is one, and also it's an economic benefit, because this is additional to what they would be getting anyway. Because we were all aware that you grow plants for timber, for firewood, for fruits, and all that kind. But here, whatever the revenue comes from the sale of timber or firewood or the fruits, it is there. So this is in addition to that revenue. So this is an additional revenue from the main source of revenue. So this is an academic exercise which we are trying to do, which we do, that is quantifying the atmospheric carbon dioxide and selling as a credit to the corporates who need it. Because mainly at the moment, we have the corporates in the Western countries, Europe or other countries. So they have to reduce their carbon footprints, and they want to become carbon neutral. By some countries in Europe, they want to reach the carbon neutrality by 2030, some countries by 40, some countries by 50. So now they are in a great hurry to reduce their carbon footprint, since they themselves cannot reduce through changing their technology and all, which would lead to other problems. They can offset their carbon footprints from by buying these credits from the developing countries such as India or Bangladesh or Southeast Asia or Africa or South America. So that's the reason there is a lot of potential to develop these kind of projects, because it is all called voluntary carbon market. Again, we have two kinds of markets. One is the compliance market, one is the voluntary market. But now the compliance market after the Paris Agreement is undergoing transition. So now we are mainly talking about the voluntary carbon market, where we have certain standards, like I already mentioned, Verra, Gold Standard, Plan Vivo, and all these kind of standards. So under which you can develop these kind of projects. It would all, because when you are trying to develop a project, there are many issues. Neha, maybe you can go to the next slide.
So basically, I really like your point when you have highlighted that many of the companies could not remove the complete carbon that they are producing because of their, the way of making the products. But definitely, they can
Yeah,
look at the other carbon, or how to offset the carbon by buying the
yeah,
carbon credits, or the other way. Now, I would
yeah.
like you to just help us understand what is the life cycle of carbon projects.
Yeah. Developing the carbon project is a long-term activity. Because when you are trying, because a tree, it takes 20 years, depending upon the species, they take 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to grow and to attain the maturity. So that, you are trying to develop a project, generally the carbon credit projects are developed for 20 to 30, even 40 years as well. So, first we have to identify the project. That is what we call project identification. Identify the type of carbon project and assess its potential for emission reduction. First, we have to see where this, where is the land, what kind of land it is, what kind of species are going to be planted, what would be the sequestration rates. So what would be the possible revenue from this thing? What would be the number? Because each species has a different rate. So teak sequesters at a different rate, and eucalyptus sequesters at a different rate. Neem has a different rate. Bamboo has a different rate. Mangroves have a different rate. So all these, these all the plants, they have different sequestration rates. So we'll have to see where we are going. Here we are trying to raise a plantation, who is raising, on whose land it is being raised, whether the land belongs to corporate or whether the land belongs to the community or whether the land belongs to the private person. So we'll have to see. And when you are trying to develop a project, there are two important issues. One is the baseline, other is additionality. What do you mean by additionality? Additionality in the sense, it should not be a business as usual situation. It has to be something additional, because you are raising a plantation on a piece of land. So anyway you are doing it, so that would not qualify for a carbon project. So you are raising a plantation on that piece of land, because this carbon revenue makes it a viable economic activity. So we'll have to prove this additionality concept when we are trying to develop a carbon project. So that is very important. And another thing is that baseline. Because and we have to see that there are no deforestation during the last 10 years on that piece of land where you are trying to raise a plantation. Because you would agree there is no logic, if you clear an existing forest and raise a plantation. So that would not qualify for a carbon project. So there should not have been any deforestation because the land is lying barren or the land is not being economically, put a viable economic option. So then you are raising a plantation. So this promise of this additional revenue from the carbon credits will make it an economically viable activity. So these are the concepts, these are the two critical things you have to look into it when you are trying to develop a carbon project. So then you have to design the project, then you have to develop a detailed project design document, addressing this additionality issue, baseline issue, what is the kind of soil, what is the kind of climate conditions and all that. And also, project design document, that is what we call PDD or a project description or project design document. Then we have to identify a methodology, because when you are trying to quantify a carbon sequestration, you have to follow set method. There are various methodologies available, because there are certain methodologies available for mangroves, there are certain methodologies available for agricultural management, there are methodologies available for afforestation. So for the kind of project we are thinking, the kind of land where we are trying to raise a plantation, so what is that methodology which would be applicable in this kind of situation? That we have to identify. Then we have to develop, they use the methodology to quantify the carbon sequestration over a period of time. So, and then you have to execute the project and implement the project, whether the plantation would be executed by the corporate or by an NGO or by a community or by a panchayat, that we have to see, that we have to get this implementing partner. Then, as you have said, as Sadhanaji has said, you have to monitor the growth, because every project, he will go through two critical phases. One is validation, other is verification. So unless the project is validated and verified by an independent accredited agency, you cannot get the carbon credit issued. So validation in the sense, we may be writing everything in the project design document, but somebody has to be validated. So it has to be validated uh, on the ground. So that is called validation. So an independent body, accredited body would come and validate. So what we are saying is there on the ground or not. For that, as has been mentioned, you have to geotag all the areas and all that. We have to identify that area where, so that where, suppose you are raising a plantation on a panchayat land or a farmer's land. So then we have to take the geo coordinates of that land. So where the plantation is going to be raised, so that the one who is buying the carbon credits in the Western countries, maybe sitting in US or Europe, he will be able to see from where he is getting the carbon credit. So it has to be verifiable. So that these are, and also once it is the project is validated, then we get the verification done every 3 years or 2 years or 1 year, depending upon the area. So that once it is verified, so what suppose you have done the first verification, in the year third year. So that during the last 3 years, last preceding year, how many carbon credits have been issued. So you have, somebody has to come and verify. Then he makes a recommendation to the standard, whether it is RERA or gold standard or plan B, those kind of standards. Then they issue the credits. So then those credits are bought by the corporate, whoever wants to offset their carbon footprint. So then they retire it. So yes, we have these many carbon footprints. Then we have bought these credits. We got these credits, issued from this project. So we retire, so that their carbon footprints are taken care of. So that is, that monitoring, verification, and the credit issuance. So these are the critical steps, so that, generally the project life period, it varies from 20 to 40 years, and depending upon the kind of species you are planting. So yeah.
That sounds very insightful. I mean, we were able to understand how the carbon projects work, and as well as what are the benefits. At the same time, how much it has become mandatory for the governments today. Now I'll just open this session for the audience to ask the questions, and please come up with the questions related to sustainability in plantation. Here we have eminent speakers, Sadalia sir and Satyanarayan sir. They are going to help to answer a few of your questions. You can unmute yourself if you want to ask the relevant question. We will give here another 5 minutes to, to get the questions. Yeah, anyone interested from the audience?
Hi Neha, this is Nidhi Singh.
Hi,
So I
Nidhi.
just have one question. Yeah, hi. So are we doing, so who's the one who is doing the tree plantation activity? Are these
That's
the
the
partners
plantation.
of DGTL or DGTL itself?
DGTL.
Okay, DGTL is the owner who is going to do the tree plantation.
No, the plantation is done by the partners.
Okay. So basically this DGTL is the technology platform where like user can come and raise their request and you are connecting, like you are the medium who is deliberating those requests with the implementation partners and they are giving us all the reports and all those things. Is it like that?
Yeah, correct. That's correct.
So
So
as
that is
a user, do we have that transparency, like which implementation partner is doing the tree plantation for us? No.
Yeah, Nidhi, let me answer that. Neha. So Nidhi, very pertinent question. So if you use the platform for the plantation request,
Mm-hmm.
we can assign the plantation request to our associates, or we can club it as a single project, wherein jointly we
Okay.
decide who is the implementing agency, and we
Yes.
take care of all the nitty-gritty about the status updates, the verifications,
Mm-hmm.
the consulting effort, so that
Mm-hmm.
the corporate is only bothered about the monitoring of the project and not about the actual execution part of it. So both way, our platform can be used by somebody who wants to do it themselves, or we can, if it's a bigger project, we can collaborate. We can bring in our consultants who can advise people on what are the suitable species. We can bring in consultants who help you throughout the carbon credit cycle. And we can coordinate or take up um, with ourselves, depending on the nature of agreement, the actual part of plantation. I hope that
Okay. Thank
answers.
you, sir. Yes, yes. So, you are going to help with the carbon credits as well to generate the carbon credit from those trees which we are going to plant.
So, Nidhi, since this is an important aspect of most of the bigger plantation aspect, we would coordinate and help you get the carbon credit. We would bring on board experts who will help you right from the
Okay.
application stage to verification stage to the getting the carbon credit issuance.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And one more thing is, like how these tracking has been done via drones or manually. Like agencies are filling data manually, that we understood, but how at their end they are doing it via drone or like they are just manually tracking how their plants are doing.
Okay. So, primarily the drone tracking is used for larger plantation effort. And what it
Okay.
does is that by using different frequencies of lasers, infrareds, and other light uh, bouncing images, the drone first makes the baseline in terms of what is the ground cover, where is the ground situated, and then the periodic survey of that particular geo-mapped area is done by the drone, wherein it can then capture the foliage cover. What is the height of the foliage? So there are many types of observation you can do through the drone, which will help you get the carbon sequestered.
Okay.
I
Thank you,
just
sir.
want to add to what Ms. Sadhana has said to Nidhi. I think I understand you are from the Grow Billion Trees organization. You know,
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, in fact, when you are trying to, take advantage of the carbon projects from a plantation activity, you need to see where exactly you need to undertake a feasibility study essentially to start with.
Yes.
Because where this plantation is being raised, if it is on a private land or a community land or for a government land and all that, then we have to see what kind of species are going to be raised and all that, and also what kind of pools, carbon pools are there. You know, you have generally five carbon pools. One is above ground biomass, below ground biomass, soil organic carbon, deadwood, and litter. So, which carbon pool would be available here in this kind of a plantation activity? So that we'll have to see, and what kind of a standard you should select, whether the Verra or Gold Standard Plan Vivo, and what kind of methodology would be applicable in this kind of an area. So these are the, and also you have to see whether the plantation activity meets the requirements. So as I already mentioned, whether baseline, additionality and all. So then you have to decide whether this way activity would qualify for a carbon project or not. So, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. Thank you, sir. So yeah, concept-wise, everything is clear. So I have certain other queries regarding to this tool. So well, can you please help me, Neha, to whom I can connect and like because I have multiple questions with this tool
Sure.
after this.
Ucha will get in connected with you, and you can share the email ID of yours, and we can connect for one-on-one discussion for this.
Okay, sure. So where should I share the email address?
Ucha, you can just connect with the Ms. Nidhi Singh. Ucha Roy from my team will connect with you.
Sure. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Or else I have a question to Dr. Satyanarayan sir. Okay, we have one.
Hi.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hi.
Richa is here.
And
Yeah, hi,
yeah,
Richa.
yeah. Hi everyone. I have a question. As we are a waste management corporate, so I just want to know that is there any condition for land where we want to do the plantation that we have to take the panchayat nearby panchayat help or it can be personal land also. Yeah. For
No,
plantation, yeah.
Ajay, you want to answer Sabdanyaji? Yeah.
Doctor, I think you are the right person to answer. She's asking about the land types which can be used. And
Yeah, whether where you want to raise a plantation, whether no, whether you want to make it a carbon project or not. First, the ownership of the land is very important. You see, unless the owner, the permits, you cannot take up a plantation. So it could be a private landowner or it could be a panchayat. In case it is a panchayat land lying vacant and or where you want to undertake a plantation activity, then you have to enter into an agreement with the panchayat saying that you will provide this kind of support to the panchayat, and all panchayat has to agree in their passing a resolution in the Gram Sabha and all that. Or if it belongs to the government, then maybe you have to talk to the government and you say that this kind of support you would provide for raising a plantation. Then you have to evaluate good benefit sharing mechanism so that benefits would go to the community or to the corporate or to the government. You have to evaluate good benefit sharing mechanism so that it can be any land. It can be private land, it can be panchayat land, it can be community land, it can be government land. But you have to have a kind of this ownership should be clear
Okay.
so that the benefit will go to the owner naturally.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any other participant who wants to ask a question? One question that I have got on the chat saying, does a plantation management app help in selecting the species as well? So Dalisa, could you answer that, please?
okay, so frankly speaking, the app does not have the intelligence to select the species. It is finally the human intelligence of the experts who use the app. The app can store the data about what are the favorable conditions required for a particular species to grow. It can store data and refer data about what are the potentials of sequestration for each type of tree. But finally, it's a very complex functional area where an ecology expert or environment expert looks at the various aspects. He has to look at the climatic conditions, he has to look at the soil conditions, he has to look at the native species, he has to look at which type of species will be suitable for the goal which is meant for this particular project, and then decide on the species to be used for the plantation uh, to match the goal of the plantation. Because if it is carbon sequestration, the species selection will be different. If it is providing livelihood or providing, say, earning source to the community, then the species condition would be different. And if the climatic zone is, say, near the sea, species selection will be different. If it is in the hills, it will again be different. So those are where the consultants associated with us come into picture, that they can help you, advise you to choose a proper species suiting your aim for the plantation.
Yeah, once you have the data about, site quality, climatic conditions, and the soil conditions and all that, then the choice of, species is not an issue. So that you can do it, depending upon the data you
Yes.
have.
So Dr. Saab is an expert for many years in that field. But since I am from the technology side, the technology can support by making that data available to the experts, and then they can use their knowledge and experience to advise on the proper species.
My next question again is asked on WhatsApp to Satyanarayan sir. What are the key factors determining which species have a higher capacity of carbon absorption?
Yeah, now, you see the species which can survive for longer period. They have, now, now there is a good demand for the carbon credits generated from nature-based solutions, which have a longer gestation period. Instead of the harvestable species, like north, you have the poplars and all that. So the credits generated from those kind of plantations do not command much price in the market at the moment, because these are harvestable. Once you cut again, you are releasing some emissions into the atmosphere. So that you always promote species such as neem, teak, a jackfruit or a fruit bearing species, tamarind, or these kind of long gestation period species. They command a good price in the market, and also their sequestration is also good. And as I also said, the most of the carbon projects are for a longer period, 20 to 30 or 40 years, so that these non-harvestable species would be good for a carbon project.
Okay. We have another question in the Q&A session. That's, have we fully tapped into the potential of tree species selection to maximize carbon sequestration and plantation management? I have not completely got this question. So that is just an answer. If you have got the question, can you answer, please?
Yeah, Neha, I think Dr. have just answered that question. I think similar lines.
Perfect. So we are right on time, and I think now is the time for everyone to collaborate with us. This is just one set of step that we have taken. There are many more we want to do. We want to do many webinars with you all. We want to collaborate with all the sustainability leaders. We want to collaborate with each one of you so that whatever steps we are taking is for the betterment of our future. So I would request the people out here in this participant list and many more to please join us in this WhatsApp group community where we can easily share our ideas, what steps we are taking towards sustainability, and what you are bringing to the market. Let everybody, every individual, take the responsibility. So, with this note, I will want to close the webinar. And I would thank each one of you who has attended us. And thank you, Sadalia sir. Thank you, Satyanarayan sir. This was indeed a very insightful session for all of us, giving us the hint of how plantation can help us, how we can manage it, and how the carbon credits can help us. So we will be more than happy to answer one-on-one questions to all of you. So feel free to connect with us on the email IDs provided. You can take my email ID off from the chat. That is neha.kapoor@digital.co.in. And you can please share all your insights about this webinar and any future activity that you would love to dwell in. On this note, I would like to thank everyone and say goodbye and say a wonderful evening to all of you. Let's together make a difference. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Dr.
Okay, bye. Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Sadhan. Thank you to all participants. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.